Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. My name is Amirul Nizam bin Roslan and my student ID 2021 04040008. And today, I'm going to present to you about the Art Deco style. So in this presentations, I'm going to share about four topics. The first is actually the explanation and also the introductions about what is Art Deco. And second, I'm going to share about the characteristics of Art Deco style. And then I'm going to share with you also a short videos. And last but not least, the conclusions for this presentation. So let's look at what is Art Deco. Okay, Art Deco is a design style that emerged in 1920s and 1930s. It reached to its peaks of the popularity in 1930s. It's actually originated in France, but it was quickly spread throughout the Europe and also the United States. So the Art Deco is characterized by its use of geometric shapes, bold colors, and also a lavish ornamentations. So the style is often associated with a luxury and also glamour. It was popularized during a time of economic growth and prosperity. It's influenced a wide range of art of forms, including architecture, interior design, fashion, and also visual arts. So let's look at the next one, which is the characteristics of the Art Deco style. So there are 12 characteristics of Art Deco design, and we will go through the details of these characteristics for our further understanding. So the first characteristics is using of glass block. So in Art Deco, glass block was popular in Art Deco architecture because it's allow a natural light to enter the buildings while it's also providing privacy and also insulations to the building. The block was often arranged in geometry patterns or used to create curved forms, adding to overall decorative effects of the buildings. During this time, glass block was relatively new materials, and it was typically made from thick translucent glass and was used as a decoration elements in the building. Uh, Elements in the building, facades, wall, and also a window. The glass blocks also used to create striking lighting effects in Art Deco interiors. It was often used to create backlit panels and partitions. It create a sense of drama and also luxury. The second characteristics of Art Deco style is use of the cubic forms. In Art Deco architecture, cubic forms was often used to create bold and also dramatic building facades. The form was often arranged in a steps or tiered pattern. It creates sense of depth and also dynamic. The use of these cubic forms also allow architect to play with lights and shadow. It creates dramatic effects on the building exterior. While in interior design, the cubic form was often used in furniture design, lighting, fixture, and also decorative elements. Art Deco furniture often features a clean, straight lines and bold geometry shapes, including cubes and also rectangulars. Lighting fixtures was designed to be both functional and decorative, and often it's incorporating cubic shapes and bold. It's basically a streamlined design. The third characteristics of or the style of Art Deco is using of zigzags design. In Art Deco architectures, zigzag design was often used to create decorative motif on building facade and also interior surface. The zigzags was a particularly popular motif, and it was used in a range of ways, including as a decorative element on building cornice, in staircase, and also as a pattern in tiles work. In interior design, the zigzag design was often used in carpets, textile, and also decorative element. The design could be used in a variety of ways, from subtle essence to bold pattern that dominates the space. The fourth characteristic is using of illusions of pillar. Art Deco often made use of the illusions of pillar, which was one of the design technique that creates the impressions of the structural support, but actually without actually using them. This allows architect to create a grand and also impressive building facade while minimizing construction costs and also the materials. The fifth characteristic is the bands of colors. If you look at the pictures, Art Deco often made use of bands of color, which was horizontal stripes of contrasting colors that was used as decorative element in both architecture and also the design. These bands of color was typically used to create a bold and also a dramatic effect, and they were often seen in range of different materials, include metals, glass, and also ceramics. In architecture, band of colors was often used to highlight the different levels of the building or to create a sense of movement and also dynamic. They were typically applied to the building facades either as painted band of colors or as inline stripes of colored materials. Next, look at the interior. The bands of colors was often used in textile, right, rugs, and also wallpaper. They could be used in a variety of ways, from subtle accents to a bold pattern that dominates the space. The sixth characteristics is ziggurat shapes. The ziggurat shapes is a step pyramid form that was used in ancient Mesopotamian architecture. In Art Deco design, these shapes was often adopted to create a tiered step effects in building facade or decorative elements. For example, the Paramount buildings in New York City. It incorporated elements of ziggurat shapes on the tops of its building. The seventh characteristics, using of a rounded corners. In Art Deco, they use a rounded corner design which reflects the style focus on modernity and also innovation. By incorporating curves form into their design, Art Deco designer was able to create a sense of dynamic and energy that was characteristic of that era. In architecture, rounded corners was often used to soften the edge of the buildings and to create sense of fluidity and also movement. It was typically applied to the corners of the building facades, either as curved wall or as decorative elements such as pilaster and or moldings. While in interior, in furniture and decorative objects, rounded corners was used to create a sense of smoothness and also comfort. They were often seen in items such as sofa, armchair, and also lamp. They was help where they help to create a sense of relaxation and also ease. The eighth characteristic is actually a strong sense of lines. So in Art Deco style, it's relied heavily on geometric shapes and pattern, with bold, straight lines, also sharp angles, which is dominating its visual language. The use of strong lines reflected the style focused on modernity and also innovation. By emphasizing the strength and the precisions of geometric shapes, uh, Art Deco designers were able to create a sense of order and also stability that was both reassuring the dynamic. The ninth characteristic is actually a racing stripes. In architecture, Art Deco using a bending or racing stripes to emphasize the horizontal lines of the buildings, particularly in skyscrapers and other modern buildings. It was typically applied as a series of stripes or band of contrasting colors or materials such as a metal or stone that runs horizontally across the facades of the building. In decorative arts, bending or racing stripe was often seen in furniture, textile, and also other decorative objects. They was used to create sense of movement and also dynamic, and to add visual interest and also a complexity to the design. The 10th characteristic is actually the step pediment. In Art Deco architecture, step pediment was often used on the building facades to create a dramatic and also imposing effect. They were typically seen on skyscrapers, hotels, and other large public buildings, where they help to convey a sense of prestigious and also power. The step element was often combined with other Art Deco design elements such as strong lines, bold geometric shapes, and also decorative motif to create a cohesive and also a visually striking design. Uh, they use this steps pendiment. The use of contrasting materials such as stone and metals also helps to emphasize the steps pediment's three-dimensional forms. The 11th characteristics is trapezoids. Art Deco using a trapezoidal shapes to create a sense of upwards movement and to emphasize the verticality of the buildings. Trapezoidal shapes was also used in windows, doors, and other architecture features to add visual interest and complexity to the design. The last but not least of the characteristics of Art Deco style is the motifs of the design. So the Art Deco motifs was often inspired by the art and architecture of the ancient civilization. These include Egyptian, Babylonian, Mayan, Aztec, and also Inca. This motif was used to create a sense of exotism, mystery, and also otherness that was characteristics of the Art Deco style. In Egyptian's motif, elements such as sphinx, hieroglyphics, and also lotus flowers was commonly used. This motif was often seen in architecture, decorative arts, and graphic design. They used to convey a sense of exotism and also ancient mystery. In terms of Babylon motifs, the elements such as ziggurat, cuneiform scripts, and stylish styled animal were commonly used. This motif was often seen in architecture and decorative arts, and it was used to create a sense of grandeur and also power. In terms of Mayan and Aztec, the motif often featured the geometric pattern, stylized animal, and also depictions of ancient deities. This motif was often seen in decorative arts and also graphic design. And also, they were used to create a sense of exotism and otherness. Last but not least is the motifs of Inca. The elements such as steps, pyramid, stylized llamas, and also geometric patterns was commonly used. This motif was often seen in architecture and also decorative art, and it was used to create a sense of grandeur and also power. So next, I'm going to share with you a short video. So enjoy.
What comes to your mind when you think of the 1920s? For most people, the 1920s conjure up images of jazz, flappers, old Hollywood, the Great Gatsby, and the Chrysler Building in New York City. It was a time of prosperity, exorbitant spending, and entertainment that gave rise to one of the most popular decorative arts and architecture movements, known as Art Deco. Characterized by exquisite craftsmanship, lavish decoration, and rich materials, the style has become synonymous with the Roaring Twenties. So what was the Art Deco movement all about? And what differentiates it from other major movements? Finally, despite its popularity today, what makes Art Deco so closely associated with the 1920s? In today's video, we'll dive into the history of the era and learn about Art Deco, the style that continues to inspire designers and architects around the world. If you'd like to see more episodes on architecture, be sure to give us a like and tell us which topics you want to learn about next. Art Deco was a decorative arts, design, and architectural style that spanned the Roaring Twenties and the Great Depression afterward. Although it had already appeared in Belgium and France before the First World War in the buildings of Joseph Hoffman and Auguste Perret, the movement was officially introduced to the world in 1925. It had its debut at the International Exhibition of Modern Decorative and Industrial Arts in Paris, after which it was named Art Deco. After the Great War, Europe was left in ruins and confronted with a depressed economy. However, in 1925, the French were determined to forget the troubled past and inspire hope for a better and prosperous future by organizing a fair that focused on architecture and design as crucial players in recovering from wartime devastation. The rules of the exhibition required that all pieces reflect aspects of modernity. Although American artists were not present at the fair, the new style quickly became a great success in the United States, especially in the realm of architecture. And not only in the States, the movement soon spread throughout the world, becoming mainstream in countries like Great Britain, Portugal, Cuba, Russia, Indonesia, China, Australia, India, and Brazil. Driven by optimism, progress, and technology, Art Deco represented all that was new and progressive, favoring modern and opulent designs. It's no surprise that the post-war society embraced it with open arms, especially the wealthy and upper middle class, who craved a brighter future, better entertainment, and more over-the-top luxury. Art Deco became a popular style for theaters, cinemas, ocean liners, train stations, commercial buildings, public buildings, and the emerging skyscrapers exemplified in the Chrysler Building by William Van Allen in New York City. It even made an impact on the design of jewelry, silverware, fine glass objects, fashion, advertising, theater and movie sets, cars, and everyday objects such as radios and vacuum cleaners. However, compared to the modernist movements, Art Deco was a more decorative and symbolic expression of modernity, marked by a mixture of different styles and ornamentation. Many different styles and art movements influenced Art Deco. The geometric forms of Cubism and Deco Style had an important influence on the style, as did the machine-like forms of Futurism and Constructivism. Art Deco also borrowed from Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Aztec art, as well as classical antiquity. Chinese and Japanese traditional art offered artists a new source of stylistic motifs too. Even the Ballet Russe, notably the exotic set designs by Leon Bass, inspired designers and architects of the time. During its heyday in the 1920s, the eclectic and sophisticated Art Deco style represented luxury and opulence, combining costly materials and fine craftsmanship with the substantial modernization of art forms seen in the past. It was a time when the economy was booming, and nothing was cheap about this new style. People longed for speed, travel, and adventure in cars produced by Gabriel Vueza, and stylish ocean lines like the famous SS Ile-de-France, built by the French line. They indulged in fun and alcohol, which was illegal in the US at the time, at lavishly decorated nightclubs. People wore glamorous Paul Poiret dresses,
daring bob haircuts, and luxury jewelry from Cartier, Chaumet, Boucheron, and Van Cleef and Arpels. This glamorous lifestyle is perfectly captured in the works of one of the most famous Art Deco artists, the Polish painter Tamara de Lempicka. Her painting style was just as luxurious as her models, as she mostly painted portraits of the elite of the era. Her paintings are marked by clean, sensual lines, highly stylized forms, brilliant colors, and smooth textures, encapsulating the Roaring Twenties elegance, style, and spirit. In her most famous work, the 1925 Self-Portrait in the Green Bugatti, she portrayed herself as an independent woman of beauty, wealth, and fashion. However, when the Great Depression took hold in the 1930s, Art Deco entered a phase marked by economic limitations and moderation. The style became more restrained, simplified, and austere.
In conclusion, the Art Deco had a significant impact on the design world and has remained popular in the decades since it was inception. Its influence can be seen in the contemporary design style, include the sleek and also sophisticated looks of modern day skyscrapers and the bold graphic designs of advertisings and also the branding. So this is going to the end of this presentations. Uh, Thank you for listening and have a nice day.